Hey y'all, this is Thorin on behalf of Rose City Sorcery. Today we're going to be commentating a game between Sam on Avatar of Air and Brendan on Waveshaper. This took place at SorceryCon 2026, and this is just a casual game. So I think it's an important thing to know when you think about whether it's worth attending an event like this. Maybe you're like, oh, I'm not a super sweaty person. I don't want to work too hard on the meta. I just want to play the game and enjoy myself. This game's an excellent example of the fact that people are there just jamming games the entire weekend. It's not all about going and competing in an event and taking first place. It's about connecting with other people in the realm and getting lots of games in and just having fun. So we get to see a little bit of that in action. I went with Sam and a few other people from the Portland scene to SorceryCon this year, and had the pleasure of meeting Brendan and a lot of the other people from New York. Got to play at least one, maybe two games against Brendan myself, and know that he's a pretty strong Waveshaper player. Taught me a few things that I didn't even realize. I was talking with Portland Stu a couple of weeks ago, and we were both kind of on the same page where we had no idea that Waveshaper could target nearby sites. We thought that it had to be adjacent when we first read it, so I remember my first ever time seeing that happen was against Brendan, and it blew my mind. But getting into the game, looks like both players starting with really strong sites out of the gate. We've got Sam with the Wuthering Heights and Brendan on River Rapids, both giving those players that early movement, which is really strong. Lets you play a little bit more conservatively, place your minions a little bit further back, and then reposition them into the spots where you want them to be to attack. I generally like those sites a little bit more forward, but they're also great in the back row, and it also just kind of depends on your play style. Sam flying forward very early as well on Avatar of Air. I'm not a super well-versed Avatar of Air player. I don't know really what the right time is to use the ability and whether you should hang back or fly forward early, but I know that it puts you in a better position, especially with the Wuthering Heights back. You can play something on the Wuthering Heights, fly it forward, and then have Avatar of Air fly it forward from there, so that seems pretty strong. And then Brendan also with an excellent early sight in thin ice. It's what you want to see when you're in water. Having that front and center sight, be nice and defensive. Get those Nixies out, the Abaddon Succubuses, and just kind of control the board from there. So we've got an early Tooth Fairies from Sam. Into an early Sinkhole, which is excellent for dealing with the thin ice. So pretty strong tempo start coming out. And then able to fly the Tooth Fairies forward and get some early beats in. It's got to feel like a pretty good start. And then end with the Gibbous Night Gaunts into the Void. So yeah, super aggressive. Being at one site early against this kind of tempo Avatar of Air style has got to be pretty scary. We'll see what Brendan has to deal with it. Decides to play a little bit further back. Plays the Spring River. I think we can see some combo pieces sitting in Sam's hand there too. I see a Willing Tribute. It's always a thing that Avatar of Air is happy to see. Gets the surprise burst damage out to put your opponent at door early. Feels pretty strong. And then showing the early toolbox. I know that's a big debate on whether it's a good idea to play toolbox early or to play it later in the game when you actually need it. But honestly, really important aside on Toolbox, talking with Drew Tucker, the artist of Toolbox at SorceryCon, he has revealed that that is just his toolbox at home. Had a little bit of artist block and decided to, not work too hard on it and just draw what was right in front of him. So I thought that was a fun little story. Pretty neat stuff. It's really cool in this game where you know, it's small enough that you get to interact with artists on that like one-on-one level and hear their stories that they have. Just another great reason to go to events like SorceryCon. But back to the action. Looks like Brendan's trying to decide where he wants his frog token at if he decides to summon it. Looks like he's playing back for now. I know that the Vantage Hill, or not Vantage Hills, I'm thinking of the Earth one, Updraft Ridge, with the Wuthering Heights and the Avatar of Air. I mean, Sam just has so much mobility on the board right now. Like, this has got to be pretty daunting. I mean, like I said, I'm not a big Avatar of Air player, but I can't imagine that you have too much better starts than that, besides maybe a defensive side or a bottomless pit. I guess minions would be good too, but I mean, Sam's got 2 on board. But if there's anything that I know, it's that Waveshaper's happy to just sit back and take some early beats and endure to lock down the board a little bit later and get those late game comebacks with those Ennui Undines and stuff like that. Sam coming in for more damage. 20 to 11. It's pretty quick. And then opts to pass. 3 cards in hand. We see the Drew Tucker swap in Brendan's hand. It looks like he's got 5 cards in hand, so he's not doing too bad on advantage. He just needs to get some stuff on board and stabilize. I think we'll be doing just fine. It's kind of cool to see these mono-element decks against each other, though, right? Where it's not just the same Watch and Water Necro or anything like that. You know, Avatar of Air is still considered fairly viable in the current meta, but I love seeing stuff like Waveshaper, where everybody acknowledges that water is really strong right now, but it's nice to see the more traditional, like, classic water style come out. Especially when we see a giant shark. I love seeing that. Ooh, and then we're gonna move the minion, the Night Gaunts, with the River Rapids, which will trigger the giant shark. That's a really cool play. I love to see that. It's a really cool tech by Brendan. I know a lot of people love giant shark and they want to see it work, but it's really cool to see it in action like that. And, you know, it's giant shark works anywhere in the body of water, so if he's able to move the Tooth Fairies as well, or even if Sam moves the Tooth Fairies within the body of water, that shark's going to come for it. So that's a pretty cool defensive play that can put Brendan back in the game. We're going to play a forward Perilous Bridge. Sam's definitely pushing forward quite a lot here. Got a lot of mobility and then a little bit of that defensiveness with the bridge, but that's not going to really matter too much with the Updraft Ridge sitting right in front of Brendan's home site. But really limiting the size of the body of water that Waveshaper is going to be able to get out, which might matter later. Depending on what the Waveshaper draws. And this is pretty tricky board state to deal with. Like, if you don't have an easy answer for the giant shark, it definitely kind of puts the brakes on what you're thinking. So Sam's just kind of thinking over what the outs are right now. Wouldn't be surprised if we take a look in the toolbox and see if there's an easy answer in there. Maybe like a displace or something to put the shark on land. I actually don't know if that works. Let me know in the comments if Waterbound prevents force movement. I think that I know how to play this game, and then I see interactions like this, and then I really start to question my own game knowledge. So feel free to correct me. I love being corrected. Flies the Tooth Fairies out of there. So no longer in range of the Giant Shark. That's good. I know the Giant Shark is like one of those classic groan tests. Like if a judge gets called over and they see a Giant Shark on the board, they just want to go take a smoke break, right? Like it's got to be pretty unfun to have to deal with those rulings. If you're out there volunteering as a judge, and if you are, thank you so much. You make all of this possible, just facilitating these awesome events. So we've got a pretty forward Omphalos. I like this placement because, well, okay, so there's a few things that I have to think on it. So it's forward, which means that Sam's minions that he gets to play with it are going to be front and center on an updraft ridge. That's going to give you a lot of mobility. However, it is adjacent or nearby to Brendan's body of water. So if Brendan decides that he wants to flood that site, or then, you know, he might have a submerge effect that could get both the Omphalos and the Tooth Fairies in the same game action, which would be a pretty strong 2-for-1. So a little bit of risk reward there on playing that forward. Maybe back onto the Wuthering Heights would be a little bit safer, because then you could, you know, summon the minion, fly it, and then you're still well within striking distance. But, you know, not every minion in the deck is going to have airborne. So we'll see how it plays out. And I know that you guys aren't really getting, like, the audio of the game that I am, but it's really cool to hear it, because all you're hearing is just, like, laughter and chatter throughout the convention hall. Really, like, brings you back to the atmosphere of being in that spot where everybody's come together for the same thing, which I think is really cool. So, I've said it once, I'll say it 3 million times. If you ever put yourself in a position where you can go to an event like this, you absolutely should. It is a blast. So, a little bit of mana acceleration from Brendan with an Aquamarine core. It's going to put him at 5 mana. So, we're going to start unlocking some threats. So, we've got a Submerged Slimy Mutant for 3 mana off of the Frog token there. So, we've got 2 left. Let's see if we do anything with it. But yeah, I haven't seen a lot of people do the Slimy Mutant Frog thing, the Giant Shark. Like, this is a very cool, very original deck from Brendan, and I love seeing stuff like this instead of just the same kind of usual suspects. You know, even when you sit down across from Waveshaper, you're like, okay, I'm ready for the Lordalize, I'm ready for the Lugbog Cats, and then you get hit with the Giant Shark and a River Rapids, and you're like, oh, I have to completely rethink my entire way of playing, which I think is super cool. That's a huge reason why I love this game. So, looks like Sam drew a second Perilous Bridge, so we're going to have a pretty annoying front line from him. But again, that Updraft Ridge, still right there, ready to be attacked if the time comes. So... And, you know, that's a general gameplay philosophy topic that I like to have the conversation with on people. It's like, if you're playing that aggressively, like, what's the risk reward of playing a site right in your opponent's face? Like, do you really feel like you're going to be fast enough to overwhelm them, or is it a liability to have that site surrounded by theirs where they just have the easy beats in if they manage to stabilize? So we've got a Legion of Gall out from Sam on the Perilous Bridge. Looks like he got Riptide, maybe Drown? I can't quite tell what the card underneath the Riptide is. And then Led Astray. Really trying to make sure that that Giant Shark isn't getting any mileage. And protecting his Omphalos from that Drown, if that's what the card was. So, pretty smart stuff there. Draws another card from the Omphalos. And we're looking at 4 cards in hand between the Omphalos and Sam's hand, which has got to feel pretty good in this position. You just got to figure out the Giant Shark problem. which again is so cool. You never get to see that, so really cool stuff. We're also seeing a grapple shot along with that Willing Tribute in Sam's hand. So we know that we've got a ton of burst damage coming out. You know, if he uses both of those things on the Legion of Gaul, we're talking 15 damage in one turn, which can be pretty devastating. And, you know, that's the potency of the mono air version of the Avatar of Air deck, is you just can sit there and dirtle, and then all of a sudden your opponent's at door with 2 minions on top of you, and you don't really know what happened. I know that personally happened to me at SorceryCon. That was my one loss on day one, and it was pretty scary. So definitely changed the way that I think when I sit down across the table from an Avatar of Air. You're just kind of always on guard because you never know when you're going to suddenly be at door out of nowhere. So, oh man, I have like questions. So many questions about Giant Shark and its interactions, so we're going to do a quick search here. Because I'm just making sure that when that Slimy Mutants comes up, that it doesn't enter the body of water. I think that it might, but I don't know for sure. Enters or moves between sites in this body of water. So I do think that that Slimy Mutants was supposed to get eaten by the shark, but again, all you judges out there, feel free to comment and tell me that I'm wrong and tell me why I'm wrong, because I probably am. The swap, though, from the Omphalos to the Slimy Mutants was very good on Brendan's part, because if you don't know, Omphaloses can only play minions to the site that they're summoned onto, or that the Omphalos is on. So if your Omphalos gets put onto an opponent's site, you can no longer cast minions there because it's not a legal place to cast them. So outside of magics and auras and stuff, that's effectively going to turn off the Omphalos, which is really strong, and gives Brendan a chance to attack if he wants to. So oh, we see Sam draw the Displace, though, so if he wants to, I'm pretty sure he can move his Omphalos back onto his own site. Let me verify that Displace can target artifacts. It can, so if he wants that Omphalos back on, he can do that whenever he wants. He knows what cards are in there, so you can just let it sit there and hang out because Brendan thinks that the Omphalos situation is managed and handled, and then you can just suddenly move it over and unload whatever's in there whenever you feel like doing it, which is a pretty strong play to have in the back pocket, because it's just going to keep drawing those cards. Just because it can't use the minions doesn't mean that it's not drawing them. Oh, but instead he chooses to displace the Giant Shark, so this is the exact thing that I was talking about earlier that I don't know if it works or not, because the shark is waterbound. So yeah, I'm not really sure how that plays out. But Sam is going to grapple shot into the shark to remove it. Asks to take it back. It seems like they're kind of talking through some potential lines of play. Brendan's saying that because the shark isn't in water, it's disabled, which does make sense. Sam's a little worried about the flood situation and what would happen if it were to be, like, if his updraft ridge were to be flooded. But decides to go ahead and continue with the grapple shot anyways. Or maybe he just attacks it. I'm not really sure what's going on with the cards on board. But I do think that he did choose to just grapple shot and then maybe attack. And then draws the spell with the Omphalos. Okay, so that grapple shot did get used. So now that that shark's off the board, Brendan's back in a little bit of a tricky position because that was the big deterrent on Sam coming in and putting on beats to Brendan's sights. So we've got to introduce another threat. And if I saw that correctly, I think that might have been a Mr. Lord of Lies in Brendan's hand. It's a very beloved card in the community right now. I'm sure that most of you know. Everybody's very happy with it as it stands. But he does only have 5 mana. I don't know if he has a sight in hand. So he does have the sight. So Lord of Lies is a potential. And the cool thing is he could play the Lord of Lies on a River Rapids, push it forward, and then have the Lord of Lies fight the Legion of Gall, and then get some damage in and really start making that comeback, which would be pretty huge. Because, I mean, the biggest thing when you play these control-style decks is identifying when it's time to turn the corner and start getting damage in. So, if that is a Lord of Lies in hand, this might be a good opportunity to do that. So, it starts out with the attack. So, I think I might have seen correctly. We're going to play a Mix Aqua and ditch that. Ooh, great old one. So definitely not what I thought that we were getting off of that. So instead we're going to flood the entire realm. So he's playing that submerged, I think, mainly just to make sure that we're not doing the damage there. Sam's just making sure that his things don't get submerged on the Genesis. They're getting all that hammered out. So the nice thing about Great Old One on Waveshaper is it means that no matter where your opponent's minions are, you can tap them down. So if Sam's trying to do this thing, you know, let's say the board state stabilizes a bit more, and he starts playing minions back on the Wuthering Heights like I was talking about earlier, as soon as he plays them, Brendan can just tap that Wuthering Heights down, and they're not going to untap. So Sam's still sitting on a decent amount of burst damage in hand and has the attack lines if he wants to attack maybe the Spring River or something with the Legion of Gall that he could feasibly burst down and get Brendan to door right now. So let's see if that's the play that he decides to go with. Does play the Willing Tribute and decides to play it back and immediately sacrifice it. So Willing Tribute does say that it has to be an adjacent ally, so Brendan clarifies that, they roll it back, and Sam just changes the placement on that. He does untap the Legion of Gall and then get Brendan to Death's Door. And then he's got that toolbox in hand, so that's got to be pretty scary because you know there's a zap in that box. I don't know anybody who doesn't put a little zap in their toolbox if they're in air, you know? Like, my toolbox at home has a hammer, a screwdriver, don't have any zaps in there, but maybe like some spare electrical wires or something, but that's about as close as it gets. But yeah, we're going to need to see maybe a swap or an Atlantean Fate or something from Brendan here. Atlantean Fate would be huge right now. It gets rid of the Omphalos, the Legion of Gall, and the toolbox and just submerges the Slimy Mutants, which has submerged, so that wouldn't be an issue at all. So that'd be pretty sweet, but we'll see what happens. Oh, but Sam does see that that's a potential line and flies the Avatar of Air away, so there's not a blowout opportunity on the Atlantean Fate. So, super smart play there. It's looking a little grim. Let's see what the top deck holds. Brendan and Sam are talking about being crunked up. I'm not really sure what the context is on that, but I just wanted to inform the viewers that that is a conversation that's happening because I think it's fun. Brendan vocalizes that he is worried about the zap, which he should be. Never trust those spare electrical wires in the toolbox. Can't believe I went on that crazy tangent on Lord of Lies and it wasn't even the card in hand. That's what the current state of the meta does to somebody's brain, you know. Just gets you on that Lord of Lies tangent. Okay. So Brendan puts Sam at door. It's pretty sweet. Lacuna Entity gets rid of the one blocker that Sam had. And then he pushes the Great Old One with the River Rapids onto the flooded Updraft Ridge and then surfaces to attack for 16. Puts Sam at door, but Sam leaves through the toolbox and finds the zap, because it's in everybody's. We even have a cute little animation for it. That's how it goes. Looks like, Sam also had some spicy stuff under the Amphalos. So he would have had the Whirling Blades underneath, so he wasn't even worried about using the Displace to get it back onto his own site, because I see a Murderer Crow's in there too. So he was just happy to have that Amphalos sitting there with good utility spells in hand. Had the door, or the Death Blow, on the board the entire time. On the topic of dealing Death's Blow, this is something we've talked about in the Portland scene a decent amount. We started calling cards that deal the death blow door knockers. We would love to get that to catch on. I think it's cute. I think it's catchy. I think it's effective. Let me know what you guys think. But yeah, that was that game. So thanks for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you on another one.